Hello people and welcome to Med Novice, where we make tough medical stuff make sense. The topic for today's discussion is free radical injury. So free radical is basically a chemical species, let's say atom or molecule, that has an unpaired electron present in its outermost orbit, right? And in order to complete its octet, the reactivity of this species goes up, right? So these are quite highly reactive chemical species, due to which they have the ability to induce damage in the cell, right? They can damage the DNA, they can damage the cell by multiple mechanisms. So this is why free radical generation is something quite concerning, right? Now we need to see how free radical is generated, right? So it can be generated either during an ongoing physiological process, right? Or it can happen during some pathological process, right? So let's discuss the physiological aspect, how they are generated. So during oxidative phosphorylation, you have something called cytochrome C oxidase. Now this cytochrome C oxidase, what it does is it transfers 4 electrons to an oxygen molecule, right? Ultimately leading to formation of water. We know this guy, oxygen, is the terminal electron acceptor in the oxidative phosphorylation, right? So let's see this entire reaction step by step. What happens is you have this oxygen molecule, it will accept an electron and lead to the formation of superoxide ion, which will again accept an electron and lead to the formation of peroxide ion, or let's say H2O2. And this will again accept an electron and lead to the formation of hydroxyl free radical, which will accept the final electron, leading to the formation of water molecule. So this is the entire reaction summed up step by step, right? Now in this entire reaction, this oxygen molecule is quite a stable molecule. The water molecule is quite a stable molecule. But these guys, these intermediate products, these are quite high reactivity and hence they are referred to as reactive oxygen species. And you can see here a free radical being generated, right? So this is how physiologically free radicals are generated within the body, and it happens mainly during oxidative phosphorylation. Now we will be moving towards the pathological aspect, right? So pathologically speaking, the first way to generate free radicals is by ionizing radiation, right? It is quite simple to understand. This ionizing radiation will fall and hit the water present within the tissues, right? And after hitting the water present in tissues, it may lead to the generation of hydroxyl radicals. So this is how ionizing radiation may lead to formation of radical within the body. What is the other method? It can happen during inflammation, right? So let's say some site in the body is undergoing inflammatory process, right? So neutrophil will reach to that site of inflammation, and now neutrophil will try to kill the microbe, right? So the killing of microbe by neutrophil can happen by two mechanisms. One is the oxygen independent mechanism and the other one is oxygen dependent mechanism. So the main concern here in regards to formation of free radical is the oxygen dependent mechanism. What happens there is that neutrophil induces an oxygen burst, right? And the oxygen molecules present within that oxygen burst are enacted upon by NADPH oxidase, right? NADPH oxidase, due to which you see that superoxide ion is formed, right? So there is an oxygen burst which is enacted upon by NADPH oxidase, leading to the formation of a superoxide ion, which is again a reactive oxygen species and which can lead further to the formation of peroxide ion or the hydroxyl free radical, right? So this is how inflammation can lead to formation of free radical. Coming to the third way to generate free radical pathologically, it is by the help of metals. So metals have a tendency, particularly talking about the D block metals, right? They have a tendency to undergo a redox reaction because they have unpaired electrons present within their 3D shell, right? And in order to complete their octet, right, or in order to get the inert gas configuration, they have a high reactivity or they have a tendency to react with molecules present near them, right? And this is the reason why you don't see metal ions being left freely within the body. Instead, you have carriers to which these metal ions can bind, right? So let's take an example of iron. Let's say you have Fe2 plus ion. What it can do is it can react with this molecule of H2O2, right? And what it will do, it will donate an electron to this hydrogen peroxide molecule and get oxidized to Fe3 plus state, right? And this H2O2, you have HOOH, right? Here is an electron, here is an electron. Let's say electron is donated. So what you will get on one side is the hydroxide ion, and on the other side you will get an hydroxyl radical, right? So you will get one side the hydroxide ion, and other thing what you will get is the hydroxyl radical, right? So this is how metal can lead to generation of free radical, right? And this classic reaction, this quite famous reaction, is known as the Fenton's reaction. So this is how pathologically you can see generation of free radical by metals. Now it can also be done by another method, that is by drugs or chemicals, right? So let's say you have acetaminophen. Let's say you have acetaminophen, which goes to the liver for metabolism and is enacted upon by the P450 system, right? So by the action of P450 system during the metabolism of this drug, there will be formation of certain free radicals, right? And these free radicals can induce injury to the cells present within the liver, which can lead to massive liver necrosis. So this is how drugs or chemicals while undergoing metabolism in the liver can lead to generation of free radicals, right? So with this we complete the understanding of how free radicals are generated within the body. They can be either physiological or pathological. Now if a free radical is being generated within the body physiologically too, then there have to be mechanisms to eliminate the generated free radical, right? Because we know that free radical is something that can cause injury to the cell. So what are those mechanisms that are responsible for free radical elimination? So free radical elimination can happen by the help of antioxidants, first of all, right? For example, you have vitamin A, C, E, right? The second way for free radical elimination is by the help of metal carrier proteins, as we discussed in the pathological generation of free radical by metals, right? So metal carrier proteins can help in free radical elimination. And the third and quite important one is enzymes, right? So here we will be mainly discussing three enzymes. The first one is superoxide dismutase. Superoxide dismutase, right? The function of this enzyme is to keep the levels of superoxide within a check, right? So what they will do is they will react with this superoxide ion. Basically they will catalyze this process wherein the superoxide ion will be converted into peroxide and a molecule of oxygen will be released, right? This reaction is catalyzed by superoxide dismutase and it helps in keeping a check on the levels of superoxide, right? Now you have another thing, that is H2O2. Now we discussed in the reactive oxygen species that hydroxyl radical is something that is so highly reactive that it is hard to find it roaming freely, right? As it is formed, it will quickly react with somebody, with any chemical species present in its vicinity, and it is hard that you will find hydroxyl radical, right? So to keep the levels of hydroxyl radical in check, what you will have to keep in check is the generation of hydroxyl radical, which is done by H2O2, right? So if you remove H2O2, there will be no generation of hydroxyl radical, right? So this is one method. Now what are those enzymes that can keep the levels of H2O2 within a check? The first one is catalase, and this catalase is present in the peroxisomes, right? It is present in the peroxisomes. What it does is it catalyzes this reaction wherein H2O2 is converted into a water molecule and an oxygen molecule is released, right? This reaction is catalyzed by catalase, right? And the third enzyme which you have also keeps the levels of H2O2 in check, that is glutathione peroxidase, right? Glutathione peroxidase. What it does is it needs a cofactor glutathione. So it will take two molecules of glutathione and it will extract this hydrogen from the glutathione and it will basically use it for the reduction of H2O2 to water molecule, right? So this is what glutathione does. Glutathione peroxidase basically catalyzes this reaction, right? So these are the three enzymes we have, wherein superoxide dismutase keeps the levels of superoxide under check, and catalase and glutathione peroxidase, they keep the levels of H2O2 under a check, right? And by this way they prevent the formation of hydroxyl radical, hence preventing the free radical injury, right? So these were the enzymes that are responsible for free radical elimination. Now we will be discussing a case wherein you have a person working in dry cleaning industry, let's say, and he's being exposed to CCl₄, right? The case is that how CCl₄ can lead to fatty liver. So let's discuss this. The person is working in dry cleaning industry and is being exposed to CCl₄, right? Now as the CCl₄ reaches liver for metabolism, again the P450 system will act on it and something will be generated called the carbon trichloride radical, right? So the CCl₃ radical is generated by the action of P450 system within the liver. Now this CCl₃ will induce reversible damage in the hepatocytes, right? It will start with inducing an initial reversible damage in the hepatocytes, right? Now we know that the hallmark of reversible damage was cell swelling, right? Also what we saw is swelling in the RER, right? Due to which the ribosomes popped off. This was discussed in the cell injury lecture, right? And as the ribosomes pop off, you will see that protein synthesis is reduced, right? So protein synthesis is reduced due to the formation of this carbon trichloride radical. Now what happens that whatever fat is entering the body, right, whatever fat we take in diet, it reaches liver gathers that fat and it repackages it. What do you mean by repackaging? It will basically bind the cholesterol and lipids via apolipoprotein and then it will distribute these molecules formed in order to distribute the fat all over the body, right? So this is how liver works. It gathers fat, it repackages it and then it distributes it. Now we know that the protein synthesis has gone down, so we can say that apolipoprotein synthesis has also gone down, right? So there will be a reduced synthesis of apolipoprotein. Now as apolipoprotein levels go down, the repackaging will be affected, right? Due to which the fat will accumulate within the hepatocytes or within the liver. So fat accumulates within the liver, right? So fat accumulates within the liver and this can lead to fatty liver. So this is a case wherein we saw how free radical damage can lead to certain pathologies. For example, carbon tetrachloride can lead to generation of carbon trichloride free radical, which can lead to ultimately fatty liver, right? Now we will be discussing the last topic of free radical injury, and that is reperfusion injury, right? Reperfusion injury. So what is the basic idea here is, let's say you have an organ, right, and the blood supply to that organ has been occluded, right? For example, let's say the coronary artery has been occluded, right? Due to which the blood supply to cardiac tissues will be reduced, and this can lead to the damage in tissue and ultimately leading to death of some part of the tissue, right? So let's say this leads to some dead tissue, right? So on restoring the blood supply, due to oxygen and inflammatory cells reacting against this dead tissue, you will see generation of free radicals, which will lead to further damage to the healthy tissue, to the remaining healthy tissue, right? Which means when you reperfused the organ, you saw injury further increasing, right? So this phenomenon is known as reperfusion injury. And with this, we conclude our discussion on free radical injury. If this video helped you, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. This is Med Novice, learning medicine the simpler way. Thank you.